Trenches were dug, sandbags filled, barricades erected. The government left the capital for Bordeaux, triggering a general exodus. 1 million Parisians, a third of its inhabitants, fled the city. The fate of Paris and France would be decided on the River Marne. Fought along a 300-mile front, it was a battle France had to win. But although the Germans had their enemy's capital almost in sight, their advance was outstripping supply lines. There were few lorries in 1914. Horses pulled the guns and wagons. General von Moltke, the German commander, grew alarmed.
We have hardly any horses left in the army which can take another step. We don't want to fool ourselves. We've had successes, but we're not victorious yet. Victory means annihilation of the enemy's resistance. But where are all the French prisoners and guns we should have been capturing? The French have retreated in a disciplined way according to a plan. The most difficult time lies ahead of us.
The German right wing was sweeping down towards Paris. The French had detached troops from the east, moving them by rail to Paris to attack the Germans in their flank. The Allies now outnumbered the Germans and chose their moment to strike. As the Germans neared Paris, a dangerous gap opened up between their first and second armies. The British Expeditionary Force would be driven in like a wedge.
To the French, it is their own home, and it makes them mad. We somehow fight on with no increased animosity. But the French really are giving everything, and it makes one wonder if people in England realize what the advance of an invading army over a country means.
On the eve of battle, the French commander-in-chief, Marshal Joffre, addressed his officers.
When a battle begins upon which the nation's salvation depends, we cannot look back. We must make every effort to attack and repel the enemy. Troops who can no longer advance must, at all cost, hold the captured ground and die rather than retreat.
The Marne would consign the set-piece battle, fought on a single field in a day, to history. It was on the cusp between old warfare and new. Around Paris, great armies wheeled and maneuvered as they had done for centuries. But to the east, the French dug trenches to defend their positions. Here, the battle lines would become static. The Battle of the Marne began on the 5th of September, 1914.
Fighting has begun. French shells explode incessantly in front of us. We seek shelter in a sunken lane. Stomachs loudly remind us of our hunger. Constant shelling makes it impossible to reach up and fetch an apple. Some block their ears so as not to lose their nerve with the incessant machine gun fire. Our ranks are decimated. We cannot hold this position much longer.
Pieces of shrapnel whistled past me. I felt I'd been hit. My knee was giving way as I walked. I wasn't sure what had happened. I stopped and pushed my finger through a hole in my trousers. My finger kept on going into my leg.
We turn towards the gunfire that rattles out on our right beyond us, where the shrapnel still rains down. The houses are burning. I hear from both sides. It's our own guns shooting at us. I stick very close to the ground, face against the earth.
For all its modernity, there were elements of the battle that Napoleon would have recognized. Cavalry, armed with lances, played an active role. No one wore tin helmets. And as these original colour photographs of the Marne show, some soldiers' uniforms owed more to the parade ground than to the needs of camouflage. There were easy targets in the early months.
My rifle went to my shoulder. 2 Frenchmen fell. I fired again. Nothing. My magazine was empty. I reached for my bayonet. I expected to be killed by a bullet any second. But then the rest of my men burst through the undergrowth, and the enemy vanished.
The Germans were in a shade of field grey, but the British were even more difficult to spot, as another German enviously noted.
The colour of the English clothing is much more suited to the terrain than ours. It's a sort of browny green, a really dirty colour. This really is an advantage, although we're still going to win.
With men dug in along so vast a front, aerial observation became vital. Balloons and planes gathered crucial information. They also began to take on a more active role.
A French plane suddenly appears. It turns and drops something. The air fills with a strange whistling, followed by a violent explosion. It's dropped a bomb. 7 horses killed, 3 men lost. For us, this is something completely new. None of us know how to defend ourselves from this monster of the skies.
German reconnaissance planes monitored the worsening situation at the Marne. Pilots' reports went to Count von Bülow's Second Army headquarters at Montmaur. Handwritten reports like this one revealed the steady advance of the Allies into the lethal gap between his men and the First Army. On the 8th of September 1914, von Bülow ordered his forces to retreat.
We continued to fall back, passing through French villages. In the faces of every inhabitant we saw scorn and derision. The women leaned out of their windows and thumbed their noses and sneered at us. To them, we were the defeated army.
The French referred to the battle as the Miracle on the Marne. France had been saved, but at a cost of 250,000 casualties, the same losses as the Germans. No future battle on the Western Front would average so many casualties per day. Louis de la Grandière, a French ambulance driver, was based at Saint-Sophie Farm in the thick of the battle.
We're surrounded by dead bodies, thousands piled one on top of another. We've got used to the shelling now. We don't even look up. The whole area has been devastated. The local people, gone.
33 German generals were quietly sacked. Moltke was replaced by Erich von Falkenhayn after a tactful pause. The German people were never told the truth about the Marne. Indeed, the myth at the war's end would be that the German army was undefeated in the field. But in a sense, they lost the First World War here, never having again the chance they had at the Marne to win a resounding victory against the Allies. Germany was now committed to a long war, and she didn't have the resources for it. In November 1914, Falkenhayn ordered his troops to fall back to high ground and dig in. Unable to break through, the Allies had few options but to dig in as well. The pattern for the Western Front was now set, with its line of trenches stretching from the Channel to Switzerland. 500 miles of mud and horror that would be home to the living and the dead for over 3 years. 27-year-old Bernard Montgomery, the future victor of Alamein, wrote home to his mother.
The situation is strange here. I eat peppermints with a dead man beside me in the trench. The German trenches are only 700 yards away. The weather is perfectly vile, very wet, and it's starting to get cold too. My clothes are soaked and muddy, but it's too cold to take them off. Any warm things you can send me and the men will be greatly appreciated.